How is it going, guys? And welcome back for another episode here with some Pod Limit Omaha content. As you can see, I am right now jumping into 4 tables of micro stakes Pod Limit Omaha here on PokerStars. This will be a live recording of myself playing these absolutely lowest stakes online poker has to offer. And we're going to see how these games are, what is happening, and how I can give you guys some tips who are potentially playing at these lowest stakes. So this is like PLO 2 cent, 5 cent, and of course these are like very, very small stakes. And there are a couple of interesting things that you want to keep in mind whenever you play low stakes PLO. As you can see on the top left, for example, I am folding ace, king, 7, 8, single suited to the ace. And some of you might argue, well, this could be potentially a call. We have some nuttiness, a little bit of connection. But whenever you play games where the rake is super high relative to the stakes that you're playing, then you have to keep in mind that passive pre-flop actions are becoming much more selective, and you have to be very tight there. So therefore, I did decide, for example, to fold that hand on the top left here. And whether or not that is the correct play or not, it doesn't necessarily matter. I do think it is the correct play here in these games. But more importantly, I want to advise all of you who are playing potentially these lowest games to keep in mind that pre-flop passive actions should be played very cautiously. So cold calling, facing 3-bets, those are the spots where you can potentially tighten up your ranges and be very selective with the hands as you're playing. Okay, that being said, we're just gonna get things going here. I got 4 tables open and we're just gonna play live through all these hands and see what is going to happen. Bottom left, we check back. We have a flush draw. We don't have that much nuttiness. We have decent EV checking against my opponent here, and we definitely want to see that turn. Now he checks back again, or now my opponent checks again out of position. I think I'm still going to opt for a check, and if my opponent now checks on the river again, I do want to go for a river delay bet here on the river, just because we don't have any showdown value, and I do expect my opponent to fold with a relatively high frequency there. He does end up calling, which is also fine. Sometimes that does happen, and we're moving on. Let's see how this goes. 4 tables, of course. Let me know, guys, in the chat whether or not you do like this idea here of playing this many tables. I think it's fun for the video and also interesting to play 4 tables so you can all see what is happening on all of these tables while I'm playing. Top right, we do 3-bet, pretty strong board for our range. We can bet half pot, we can bet 1/3 pot. I think it's both fine. I'm gonna opt for a smaller sizing this time. Blocking queens, blocking ace queen. Bottom left, we are going to lead out here. My opponent does come in for the call, and I think now it's time to we could potentially bet again, wrapping ace queen plus. I do think I'm actually going to check. We river now 2 pair. Let's hope my opponent comes in for a river check here. We can get this to showdown. Now that he bets, I don't think we have a call here. Don't really see my opponent having enough bluffs here after check calling the flop. A straight come in. He can easily bet like ace queen, ace 10 for this sizing, so we're just gonna fold. Bottom left is a limp pot. My opponent checks on the flop, and I'm just gonna start off with a stab on the flop. I think my opponent's heavily over check fold here in these games, so let's put a lot of aggression on these guys whenever they don't show that much interest in the pot, basically. We're going to open raise bottom left, ace, king, 9, 8. Pretty marginal hand, but we do have 2 strong blockers to my opponent's 3-betting range. So let's try to steal it. We got a gutter. We got a king half spade here. No showdown value, but I do think this is a decent spot for me to try and take down the pot. My opponent does end up folding. I think one of the things that you should keep in mind if you play these games, I think that generally people play a little bit too passively. They don't really fight enough for the pots. They don't protect their ranges while they're checking, for example, that greatly, I can imagine. So you want to take advantage of that by putting in aggression whenever your opponents take sort of a passive line and they don't seem to show that much interest in the pot. I think that's a pretty decent exploit here. I would also think that people check fold in the big blind too often. So we're not going to get check raised that aggressively, and therefore we can do a little bit more betting in position, I would say. Sorry. Let me get some water here. Bottom left, we are going to call. Top right, my opponent bets very small. We have a flush draw. I think we do want to call. Against a very large bet, we probably want to fold there. I do check the turn. I think there's definitely some value to bet against like two pairs or a set potentially, but we can also get that value on the river, I would say. Now that he pots the river, it's pretty weird. He bets so small on the flop. Like, what is he wrapping? He basically says he has a flush. I think I'm gonna call. And he was holding one diamond basically. Not exactly sure what else. You can see it. He had a straight, so he was basically value betting the river. Top right, we are squeezing. Let's raise here. Bottom right, we are going to check. Bottom left, we do open raise, maybe a little bit light, but I'm going to call now. Not a great board, and we're gonna fold. Top right, there is a straight on the board. We block top pair. SPR is a little bit over 1. I think we're just going to pot it, actually. You will have plenty of hands that we are ahead of and that we can fold some equity against. If we check and he bets, it's not going to be great. Our hand also doesn't play great on turns and rivers necessarily. And blocking top pair is pretty important here, I would say. But the driving force, I would say, still is like the very, very small SPR. Okay, so we have 4 tables going on now. Top right. I think this is going to be, generally this could be a squeeze. But my opponents probably don't fold that many high pairs, like kings and queens against a 3-bet. So I think I'm just going to flat here. The hand also plays pretty nice there. We flop the second nuts on this board. Do think we want to bet, even though we can run against the nut flush. There are so many 2 pairs and sets out there that I think we want to get some value there. Bottom right, limped pot, and we have a wrap. No showdown value. We are 3 away. Let's bet it large. My opponent raises, pretty surprisingly. He pots, actually. We're going to call here. Not the greatest turn here, because... what do we do here, actually? Let's fold here. I'm going to check back. And here we are obviously going to call. Okay, so he was holding the nut flush. He does bet the turn on the bottom right after raising flop. I think I'm going to call at least the turn. and then see what happens on the river. I can see him having like king, king very often here with like one heart maybe. He was actually having king, 10, so 2 pair with 1 heart. So, I mean, this shows how wide people also are. They probably don't have um, a great understanding of valuing the strength of their hand. Like in PLO, that specific hand against a pot-sized bet versus 2 opponents is not a great hand. You will see a lot of mistakes, of course. I mean, that's fine. The only way what we can do is like, how can we take advantage of that? And as we can see here, if we have a made hand, like we don't want to give them too much credit, basically, I would say. I think that's a pretty decent starting point. Top left, I bet small here. Not sure how much I like it in hindsight, really. Like now there's a flush coming in. But again, we do win there. Decent flop bottom right here. We have an overpair and a nut flush draw, but we are up against 4 people. Whenever you are in these situations and I mean, my opponent is now potting. I mean, don't think we really want to call because there's so much turns and rivers that will be difficult for us to play. But we do have, of course, enough equity on the flop, especially against like pair plus draws type of hands. And we have like 46% equity here. So let's see what happens here. Unfortunately, we lose. And my opponent here, like, what was he holding? Like, absolute crap here. Like, 10, 9, 6, 4. So, complete garbage. Bottom left, generally a hand we're going to check a lot. And I think for this instance, I'm going to check as well because we are 3-way. Yeah, this guy is, of course, like a complete maniac. Now there's a 4-card straight coming in here, so let's check it again. It's not getting much better here. But let's see if we can get this one to showdown. My opponent bets on a river, and I think now we do wanna fold against this large bet. Very nice hand on the top left here. Ace, queen, queen, 4, double. We flop top set, a gutter, a backdoor flush draw. So we got a lot going on here. Question is the button stabbing enough for us wanting to go for a check? I think we are actually better off just betting here, trying to get value from like a flush draw. You don't want to play too tricky also, I would say, here in these games. Whenever you have a good hand, unless you know something specific about your opponent, just try to bet your best hands large. Try to get a lot of value there. And I think that generally works out pretty nice here. Bottom right, we call. We flop bottom set. We are going to check call, even though we have a straight draw as well. Turn is interesting. I think we can go different ways here. There is a flush draw coming in as well. I think I'm going for the bet, actually. Not sure here. I think checking is also decent here. Like, there's still like queen, queen. He can check back. Like 10, 9, he can check back. Not a great river. I think I'm blocking here. He's raising. He's obviously holding a straight. Easy decision now. Top left here, the rundown double suited. Pretty gappy, so these are not hands you want to play here. I think from early position here, it's good to play like pretty tight. You're going to play a lot of flops. A lot of people like to see pots. You're going to play a lot of multi-way pots as well. You're not raising that much from early position anyway. At least you should, roughly 16, 17%. But I think in these games, you might even be better off just tightening it up even more here. And it's also cool to see like what other people are stacking off with, how other people are playing. Try to take some notes on these guys, and really the goal is like to exploit these people as much as possible. Like you don't want to think too much about like GTO strategy too deeply, or trying to balance every action possibly you can take. Just you want to make as much money, and you want to go for the highest EV line here. You want to exploit your opponents, and by the end of the day, the goal here is to escape these games as quickly as possible, because the rake is high. The rake is high here, and it's very hard to make, like, first of all, some decent money in these games, but also to have like a decent win rate, because the rake will eat away a lot of your winnings basically. So see what your strategy is. Think about a strategy here. What is your plan to get out of these games, to potentially start playing like PLO 25, PLO 10 even. But I would say like PLO 25, PLO 50. Those are the stakes where it starts to, where it becomes like interesting basically. Bottom left, we open raise and get called by 2 players. I'm gonna bet the flop. And bottom right, we are checking. Turn pair here, let's check. I think here on the top right, I'm gonna barrel through actually. Check here, and bottom left, he checks back the turn, so I'm pretty confident we have the best hand. Question is what sizing? And I think I'm going for a very small sizing this time. Top right, pretty loose 3-bet, but this guy seems to be active. And the bottom right here, we are calling a river bluff. Top right here, the money will go in most likely. Like we're not gonna fold here, so I'm gonna call with my rundown, and then we have top pair here, and the money will go in now. Not a great spot, but top pair at a very low SPR will be enough. This guy has like a lot now with the flush draw, of course. Let's see if we can manage to hit something. Like you can see like how wide this guy is 3-betting, like spala bala. Therefore, I did 3-bet my hand as well. Unfortunately, we lose. But I think against that opponent, we're doing pretty well here. It was unlucky that the other opponent went in for a cold 4-bet there with a better hand than us. But yeah, I think if you play these games yourself, then like the biggest goal for you should really to basically not play these games. Like I know a lot of people play these, but you really want to try to avoid playing this, because it's such a challenge to win some decent money here, to become a winner before rake, with all the rake that you're paying here. So it's just a super hard challenge. So think about what your strategy is. Do you want to grind it out here? Do you want to shot take higher stakes? Do you want to get some money outside of poker into poker, and then build some roll there? I mean, top left, I mean, we can bet small now. Bottom left, we squeeze. My opponent 4-bets, we're going to call. And now we are going to get it in here. At 75% equity, pretty nice. We take it down. Bottom right here, we are in the big blind. We're just gonna call these disconnected kings. We're gonna check call flop. Turn he check, or flop he checks. I think we want to bet now. Let's see if I can find another table for the bottom right, because this seems to be pretty boring. Sit out next hand there. Heads up. Let's try to get some six-handed, five-handed games open. There are probably, I see a few tables here, so it's probably not going to be a problem. Top right, we have 3-betting. Bottom right, we have to check. And I think on the top right, SPR, I think we're going to pot and stack up. It's unlikely my opponent has a lot of strong hands here, but I don't really benefit much from betting small. Not the greatest turn, but also not the worst. Flush draw is missed. We block top 2 pair. It's unlikely he has a straight. So we're just going to pot and see what happens. And he has like a pair and a flush draw and a straight draw. So let's hold, guys. Let's hold. The first one we lose. And the second one we win. So we're splitting. And I'm opening up another table here. Let's see. No, it's not. Okay, let's open this one as well. Tile. And what was my opponent holding there? Yeah, flop. Flop is probably close. Top right here. Generally a call. If I know something about my opponent, we could potentially come in for a 3-bet here with our kings. If we know he's very wide, for example. I don't know that, so then we're just going to call. You want to stay flexible with your ranges. Generally, kings against tight ranges, you don't really 3-bet them. But if you know something about your opponent and your opponent is not playing tight ranges, then you want to go for it. So always adjust your strategy based on also your opponent's ranges, right? Here against a pot size bet, we do turn a gutter, but and we have a blocker with the 7. I mean, it's pretty difficult to play rivers, I would say. I'm not sure here. I think I'm going to fold, which is fine, I would say, but probably close. But you have to adjust again, also against bet size, right? Like if he pots, he's saying he's holding a different range, basically, than if he would bet like half pot, for example. Against a half pot size bet there, it would be an easy call. But against a pot, I think we can adjust by folding. And it's fun to sometimes play these games just to experience like what other people are playing, because you get a lot of questions, of course, either on YouTube or on Discord in the mastermind, how to play these games, what are the population tendencies, etc. And if you not occasionally play them, then you either forget it or you just simply don't know. Okay, we're gonna 3-bet here our aces on the top left. Top right is also an easy open in the small blind. Especially if players like, I can imagine the big blind probably overfolding a little bit in the big blind. Turn, we are checking again, and then river. I'm gonna go for block bet 5 cent. Top left here, pretty interesting. We have a double gutter on a 2-tone board. Generally, I use one sizing, which is half pot here. This could be one of those situations to pot with my hand, actually, which I think I'm going to do. We have like a double gutter. We don't really benefit that much from inducing, as our hand doesn't play that great on turns. So whenever that is the case, we generally want to check back with a fairly high frequency and then bet some of those hands that are actually either strong enough to bet stack off, which this hand is on this board, or hands that hold strong blockers and then potentially bet fold those hands. Bottom left here, there's also money going in, like this also, like Rainbow Kings. Not exactly sure what happened pre-flop. Bottom right, we are going to defend here. Not necessarily a great board for us. Just check folding. Top left is also a hand you want to fold. And here we are squeezing queen, queen, 10, 10 double, bottom right. Very nice hand. Don't expect these guys to fold that often, so keep that in mind if you're not squeezing your value range, basically. And on this board here, I think with this hand we do want to pot. We got an overpair, a gutter, a flush draw, but we're not very nutted. So we just want to pot and stack off here. The 6, like let's think about this. We're still ahead against Jack X. You could definitely have some 5-7, but I think we do want to still stack off. He has 4-4, 9-9. Okay, so he flopped a set. Luckily for us, we river a flush there. I think in his shoes, I would have probably just stacked off on the flop. Although calling is, of course, fine. I don't really think that, including myself here, if we pot, that people will pot fold that much. And therefore, if your hand doesn't really play that great on turns, then why just not just stack off on the flop if the money will go in anyway? Let me know what you think about this specific session or these stakes. Like, what are you struggling with here? If you do play these games, what are the biggest problems you face in game? What open questions do we have? Do you have? Maybe I can make some sort of content around that also in the future. And also, let me know below in a comment, like, do you like to see like these stakes, or do you rather prefer, for example, like a little bit higher, like PLO 25, for example? Are there more people playing those games, basically? Which probably is the case, but I also want to offer something for people that really play like these absolute micro stakes games online. So we're going to sit out here in the next big blind on all these tables. I'm going to wrap up this session. Hope you enjoyed this content, guys. Make sure to smash that like button and subscribe to the channel, of course, so you will be notified when I publish new videos, and it will help out the channel also to get more people involved into Pot Limit Omaha. And yeah, of course, feel free to use the comment section below if you have any open questions about this session or the lowest stakes here, how to win here, what does it take, what are your open questions, guys? Let me know. We'll see each other soon here online, back with more Pot Limit Omaha content. Take care, good luck, and let's crush these games.